Hey guys, it's Robin. Thanks for tuning in. So some of you may have had a chance to see Spider-Man already. Some of you maybe have even had a chance to watch my review of Spider-Man already. I promise you I'm not going to be doing any more with these 3D glasses on, so we'll just toss those away there somewhere. And yeah. One thing that I had forgot to do, or it looks like I forgot to do in my review of Spider-Man, was talk about Andrew Garfield, who played Spider-Man himself. And I purposely left that available so that I could do that on today's video blog. If you haven't seen my review yet, I'm going to have the link to my review in the show notes. Check that out. And yeah, warning, there are some spoilers on this and on that. Garfield himself, I would say that he did not a bad job. He's maybe a bit cooler than I would have liked for Peter Parker. I mean, I know they set him up as being kind of, the geek who takes pictures and Flash is picking on him and all that standard kind of Spider-Man stuff. Still, he struck me as being maybe, I don't know, a little bit cooler or maybe a bit more confident than I would like Peter Parker to be based on the comics and TV show, etc., etc. But really, again, minor points, and I guess you could sum up my entire review of thoughts, opinions of Spider-Man is that they're all minor things that I would like to see tweaked maybe a little bit more. Something that they did maybe wrong with him or inconsistent with his character was his dialogue within combat. So he was fighting the lizard in the school, and during that fight, he's very cocky. He's talking to him, he's making little snide remarks, all that sort of thing. Flash forward to the end of the movie, in the final fight with the lizard, he's silent. You don't hear any of those snide remarks or the cockiness that you would kind of expect from Spider-Man. So I think that was kind of a little bit of inconsistency there. Maybe that was on purpose. Maybe I'm missing something as to why that is the case. The other thing, too, is that Spider-Man has always had an internal dialogue. And I know it's very hard in comic books to kind of let that internal dialogue come out, but I think there was one scene that they set up near the end of the movie where they flashed the camera on some liquid nitrogen. I think it would have been a perfect time for them to have kind of an internal dialogue because Spider-Man sees that and knows that can be a tool to use to fight the lizard, which is also a good thing too, because Spider-Man has always been about using more than his powers. He's using his intelligence, his knowledge of science, of the world to help him defeat villains that are clearly faster, stronger, etc., etc. So that is also one of the very good things that they did too. Overall, not too bad performance. I wouldn't say he was the strongest person of the movie, but he definitely didn't bring the movie down or bring Spider-Man's character down at all. So yeah, good job there for him, and yeah, and definitely see the movie if you haven't seen it yet because it is a good Spider-Man movie and certainly better than some of the other ones in the old Spider-Man series. I will not name, but I'm sure you all know what one in particular I am talking about. All right, continuing on with my series on Geek Girls. Today's Geek Girl is Rosario Dawson. So you probably know her from things like Sin City. She was in Alexander. She was in Clerks, and a few other kind of movies too. Obviously, Clerks and Sin City are more of her geek credit movies. She also speaks Klingon, or at least broken in some type of Klingon. She was on, I want to say Leno, could have been one of the other night talk shows, and she actually addresses the audience in Klingon. She is a massive Star Trek fan, huge fangirl when it comes to that. In fact, Kevin Smith, excuse me, said that she was one of the biggest fangirls that he had ever met. She also has a comic book that she produces all about cops in New York who fight crime, and one of the characters she kind of bases off of herself. Yeah, total geek, and really represents that sort of that fangirl, or that, I guess you could say, fanboy if you're boy, that we have, all of us have, that we get excited when we see something like, Settlers of Catan, Star Trek, or, at the end of Avengers you see Thanos and you're like, oh, Thanos. She really represents that fangirl, and that fangirl that is kind of out there in mainstream and using, I guess, her abilities or talents to do other things like comic books and that sort of thing as well. Alright, to round off today's show, I will answer the question from last week, and the question from last week is, what edition of D&D do you like? So do you like anything kind of pre-3.5? Do you like 3.5? Do you like 4? Or do you like Pathfinders, which is technically speaking not D&D, but for this we're gonna count at that. For me, it's 4. 4 is what I've played the most. I've only played a little bit of Pathfinders and a little bit of 3.5. They certainly have their benefits, their perks. I like how Pathfinders has that kind of international community, and that if you do one of their set campaigns, you can get your little certificate and your little online number, and that campaign is kind of always cataloged, and you've always done it. And if you've done, say, like part of it, you could always like go to a completely different group and finish the second part of it, because it's kind of got those, I guess, international standards to it. So that's kind of a cool thing about Pathfinders. Pathfinders in 3.5, I think, give you a little more room to be a little more creative. The DMs have a little more freedom. There, in some ways, it's a little more realistic. You don't have unlimited arrows in Pathfinders in 3.5, where in 4, you can just fire away. Same with magic missiles, not unlimited in those ones, where in 4 you can fire as much as you want. They are a true daily. What I do like about 4, and I guess maybe why I prefer 4, is that it's a little more technical. I find there's a little more checks that can be done, a little more technical battle type things, um, that sort of thing. So I prefer 4, mostly because it's what I've played the most of, and again, maybe the technical side of it that I like a little more game mechanics. All right, well, until next week, so say we'll.